Oh, like world, I just came back from the dentist, so my mouth is like. So sorry if I'm a little bit slow, but how's it going, Russ? What's going on, man?
Good. Yeah, I feel for anybody with the dentist. I'm lucky. I have no cavities. I've never had any trip to the dentist that wasn't like just a cleaning. So I know.
Awesome.
I had no, and I can't give you any reason as to why. So anyhow,
Good genes.
Yeah.
My parents have them. My brother has them. Here is the. You're not going to expect this one coming out of me today, but I saw this and I just thought, this is when Twitter for me is a bad. There's workmen here, Mike. My whole place is a wreck. They've been here for 2 weeks.
I know that's
Twitter
like
can be bad as a promotional device when you see something like an actor saying, "Hey, I got to look at the Happy Gilmore 2 script, and it looks great." Well, what year is this? This is 2024, so that's the script, right? And then it'll go through a process, and then by like 2025, it gets approved, and maybe they start filming in 2026 for a release in 2027. We don't care. Nobody cares. Nobody's going to want to see it. I actually made fun of one where I saw a tweet from like years ago where Stephen Baldwin tweeted, "Hey, I just saw the script for
Slapshot 2.
Slapshot 2, sorry." And I was just laughing too hard. For Slapshot 2, and it looks great. It's like, come on, guys.
Well, no, I mean, okay, if I'm not mistaken, the tweet was from Christopher McDonald, who's Shooter McGavin. So of course he's pumping the movie because he hasn't had a friggin' job in 5 years. This is the only job he'll get is playing Shooter. Like,
Yeah, but who knows? I mean, I don't want to be a bad guy, but
no, I'm not trying to be a bad guy.
The youngest guy in the world. How does he know he's even going to have the part?
He's doing. Of course he's going to have the part because
that's wishful thinking, Mike. I mean, how old is she?
Signed on for it, Russ.
No, but how old is he?
So what? So is Adam Sandler.
Oh, Sandler's nowhere near his age. Will you stop?
No, but I'm saying he's still. They've aged at this. Unless all of a sudden he went into a black hole and he's aged quicker.
Like 3 years from now. Yeah, I get what you're saying, but it's like it's just too much. It's like, hey, if you're a fan of that movie, great. Wait until the trailer, man. It's too. This movie may never get made. Well, that's the only. I will say this. Sorry, it will get made. Because Adam Sandler movies only end up on Netflix, nowhere else.
It will get made because Hollywood has run out of ideas. How do I know this? Because the remake of Roadhouse with Jake Gyllenhaal as the Patrick Swayze character, and the first acting role of Conor McGregor. Oh boy, I can't wait for that one. And on top of that one, a remake of The Crow, which should not have been remade. Even the original.
There would be a jinx on that movie, a curse.
Yeah,
alive that still did that movie? Is everyone alive? I mean, I don't think.
No,
right? There's no one alive.
No, the lead is dead. Bruce Lee's son.
Yeah, no. He's the only one that's dead.
Well, we don't know that. I mean, by now somebody else could have just.
No, I know. Ernie Hudson isn't dead.
But people are dead.
Yeah, no. All the stars of that movie are. But when one gets wasted, by a like sort of the Alec Baldwin situation.
Right. The thought is it was cursed. The whole set was cursed.
Right, and but that stems from Bruce Lee. But the thing is, that was a nearly perfect movie. And unfortunately, it would have catapulted Brandon Lee to be a star. And why do you need to remake that? And plus, I watched the preview of it and I'm like, come on, man. And it's just like, I'm doing my Joe Biden imitation. Come on, man.
Well, you know what's coming. This is my prediction for movies. Then we'll get on with the show. My prediction for movies. What is coming? Because what are the biggest television shows on TV right now? Do you know what they are?
Reality shows.
What's being watched? No, not reality shows. I mean, beyond reality shows. The things that are being
Chicago PD.
No, the things that are being watched the most right now are the streaming things of like Friends, of The Office.
Oh yeah, Friends, Seinfeld.
If you were to go through like all the Seinfeld, Office, Friends, Parks and Recreation, if you were to go through like the ratings that those shows have right now, would put them in the top like 10 every week.
The highest rated show on Netflix is Suits.
Right. Suits. My wife's watching that. So here's the thing: all those things are destined to become movies at some point. Like they're so big right now. They're all going to become like
I mean, Seinfeld's not going to become a
movie.
Seinfeld's not going to become a movie.
No, Seinfeld may not, but Suits, you might be right because
Suits,
they were fairly young actors in that.
Right, because they were
West Wing, Parks and Rec. I mean,
no, not West Wing. I'll tell you one that it's already been announced, and I'm glad is Cillian Murphy has said he's going to do the Peaky Blinders movie, and that'll be fantastic.
That's good. That'll be a good one. It's interesting you say this because I used to have a contact at USA, and I used to be able to do some interviews for their TV shows, and I had a choice between Suits and Burn Notice, and I interviewed everybody from Burn Notice because I liked it a lot better. But Suits now is a better show in reruns, but it wasn't as highly rated as Burn Notice back then.
Some things don't.
It was on USA Network, and nobody watched it. And you know why people are watching it? Because of Meghan Markle. That's why.
Well, Meghan Markle's a big part of it, but it's still it's actually
it's a good show. It's a good show.
A pretty good show. I mean, I don't like. I mean, it really makes you really like not trust the freaking lawyer in your life. But yeah, I don't.
That's
like
fair.
We ever did.
I know, but in that show, you really just realize how much of it's just like a game. But anyway, let's get going.
I would say the Schitt's Creek movie is what I expect. I heard little rumblings about that a couple of years ago. That was one that I do expect.
They better do it quick. They better do it quickly.
Yeah.
Right. All right, here we go. So Hockey World, it is Friday, March 22nd, 2024.
I'm Michael Agello, and I have a question. Why does a furnace break down when it's coldest out?
I'm Russ Cohen. I've had it happen to me too.
And I'm Eklund. And you're watching HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. And we have last night the BuzzTron 5000 went 5-6. Well, knew it.
Now it's down to the 3,000.
A bad night. Oh, it's 4,098. No, but it's down to we had a rough night, and there were a lot of interesting games last night. A lot of weird outcomes from games.
Not so weird of an outcome. I have to say this. Sorry, folks.
Yes, and if I could have changed any game going into that last night, Mike, I would have picked Detroit over the Islanders. But you Buzz, try and fix. I'm putting it down. I'm like, oh man, I wish I could just write the other one. I wish I could just change it. But I had to be honest with the system. So because I felt like with Larkin coming back, that was destined to be Detroit's game.
Yeah, I watched some of that game when it was close. Not before Patrick Waugh pulled the goalie at like 5:35 to go in the game. Right. But when it was close, and the Islanders are just so pedestrian on offense. They're very predictable. It's almost like watching an AHL offense with a few better players.
It's like watching a rerun of the Islanders from last year.
No, I mean, I'm just saying, to be fair, like I'm watching a lot of these other teams, and there's a lot more going on than the Islanders have going on in their offense.
This is the thing.
Right, by the way, Anthony, the BuzzTron has been dead on it with the Washington Capitals on the Western Swing. I appreciate that.
This is the thing. It's like I'm not going to slag the entire organization because there are parts there that are good. I think Sorokin is one of the top 3 or 4 goaltenders in the NHL. I like Horvat. I like Barzal. There's just not enough there. And it's like for them to continue with this crap. I mean, I'm sorry. And the thing that has killed them this year is they had an identity. Their identity was that they were a defensive club who couldn't score. Now they're a team that can't score and can't play defense. Gee.
Well, they just loaded up a line, basically. That was Patrick Waugh's big move, was just put everybody go.
It worked for a while.
It worked for a
while. They have too much invested in goaltending now. Like,
you're
not going to be able to trade Varlamov because he won't go anywhere. And they sort of need that because they don't have enough offense. Like that extra money would give them 2 possible offensive threats for them. And now they'll just have one because they got all this money tied up in goaltending.
Yeah. But there is something to having 2 goalies like that, like we talked about before, that they're gonna always be in the playoff hunt by having 2 goalies like that. And
sure, but you have to. While that's a good thing,
it's not always a good thing.
You could say that somebody else in their system could fill the backup spot, and even if they lost 5 more games of Varlamov, if you had more offense, you probably win more games.
Well, this experiment is probably going to end this year because remember, Sorokin's extension doesn't kick in until next year. Right. His salary goes up from 4.75 or 4 to 8.25 next year. So you're going from almost $7 million in salary for your goaltenders to 11.
Yeah,
a lot.
Good luck.
That's crazy.
We know from the example of Boston, that's an untenable situation because they tried to trade Allmark this year because Swayman's ELC expired last year, and they went up from about $6 million to about $9 million in terms of their ability, what they're paying their goaltenders, and you just can't pay your goaltenders $9, $10, $11 million.
The Panthers have made it work. I mean, that's
they made it work because Bob got his game back, but they paid all the money to Spencer Knight because they were afraid Bob wasn't getting his game back.
Yeah. And now they've buried Spencer Knight in the minors because $1.2 million of that doesn't even count.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's I don't think they're buried in the minors. I think they're just taking it.
No, I think next year will be up.
Helping him. By burying him in the minors, what I mean is they buried the salary. $1 million.
Right.
Yeah, I mean he was eligible to go down there. He still had an options, but he's not. I mean, and he's not having a particularly good year in the AHL either.
Yeah.
It's a year to come back in the league. Like he had all those problems, so
Yeah.
So
and some other. I probably shouldn't talk about that. Let's move on.
No. I was going to say let me talk about this because I mean maybe we can't stick a fork in them, but I'm ready to with the Islanders. But you can definitely stick a fork in the Buffalo Sabres. They're toast. And honestly, the disgraceful performance yesterday, and I admittedly I fell asleep watching the game and then watched the third period later on. They were tied 3-3 in the third period, gave up 2 goals. I think it was like a minute and 20 seconds, and then essentially quit and allowed 3 more goals. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen is the only reason that this team has climbed back to within a shouting distance of the playoffs, and they abandoned him yesterday. It was a disgraceful performance by the Sabres.
No, I do agree with that. I mean, the Sabres have done this. They've done this so many years in a row now. They make this late rush and they make it look like a good of a chance to do something with it. And and it's hard. It's impossible to do that because it's impossible to mentally and physically do that. Like you're going to have collapses. Like what the Predators are doing now, which is just absolutely unbelievable. I mean, nobody how that can be done.
Well, nobody expected, especially after the deadline, especially after trading Middlestat, especially after trading Johnson, and trading Oposo, that Buffalo would make a rally because they sold, and they got Byram and they had a little bit of an infusion of confidence, and they climbed to within 3 points, and then they lost to Detroit,
right,
and that was it. I don't think they recovered from that loss.
Yeah.
And now last night I thought their performance was disgraceful. And they're a rebuilding team. And we'll do the postmortem after the season, but you just wonder, what direction the Sabres are going to go because they've got 3 highly rated defensemen under the age of 23 in Dahlin, Power, and Byram, and that's a good core group, and they've got a lot of good young forwards, Russ, but there's something missing there, and that something missing is what's preventing them from making the playoffs.
Well, okay, there is something missing. Like you would have thought Skinner would have provided that when he started scoring again, but he didn't. So they're obviously missing that all-around winning player. Because, just Skinner doesn't play defense, right? So we know that. And I think they need a forward that's a really good all-around guy, like a Marchand type actually would be a good fit for that team because, and I'm surprised they never tried to get like a Brendan Lemieux back. Everybody's looking for that kind of guy to, spark them a little bit, whether it's being a jerk on the ice, getting the occasional scoring chance or whatever. But that's sort of what it looks like they need. Krebs isn't really going to be that guy. Krebs is a little different than that.
No, Krebs is an irritant, and he's good at that. But now they're moving him up into a higher role. He's a third-line center now. They've got a lot of young guys coming, but there's something missing. Again,
Henrique would be good. Esmir's right. And Adam Henrique would be a good fit there, that kind of guy.
Right. My critique of the Sabres has been, they concentrated on trying to be better defensively this year, and they've accomplished that. But the corresponding improvement on defense has been a decrease on offense. So they can't walk and chew gum at the same time. And the problem is you need two-way players who can play defensively and be able to produce offensively. So, I mean, yes, I think, maybe Henry, somebody's saying Tyler Bertuzzi in the chat.
I mean, that cost them too much. That's the problem.
Yeah, I mean, he
would help them though. He would.
Yeah, I mean, are you going to spend $5-6 million on a winger? No. I don't know.
They probably will. I mean, they probably will go out and get one guy like that.
Yeah, I'm talking about a lower priced person than that.
This is the problem, Matt.
Like a Lawson Krause, that kind of guy.
Yeah, that would be. This is right, and they could get him because Arizona is an organization bereft of any kind of good sense. But no, this is the problem. You can't get players to sign in Buffalo. Yeah. You can trade for them and you can lock them up once you trade for them, or you can hold on to them for 7 years. But who was the last big free agent that they signed?
Yeah, I mean, the only name that's been excited to go there. Yeah. I mean, Alex Tuck was excited to go there, so he might be the only one.
But the last big free agent signed there. The last
big I mean, the reality is, like, when they're good though, that's a place that people do want to play. I mean, it's not. In history past, they were able to
when they're Stanley Cup good. That's it.
Right.
I remember also that they got in a lot of trouble for signing free agents. Like they used to get into signing free agents too often,
because they signed the wrong free agents. When you're paying Billy Lano $6 million a year, or signing Christian Ehrhoff for 10 years, that's just stupid.
Contract was just dumb.
But the two biggest free agents they've signed in the last decade were Kyle Oposo and Taylor Hall for 1 year. And Taylor Hall only signed for 1 year because he got paid more than he got paid anywhere else.
Right. Sure. Yeah. No, I mean, it's a really devastating, loss last night. And it's funny. I was with that at a party, actually over the weekend, over last weekend, and someone asked me, and I thought about this game last night. They watched the Buzzcast, and they asked me about you, Mike, and they said, who would Mike root for in a Stanley Cup final between the Sabres and the Edmonton Oilers? And I said,
a mid-air collision.
I can't tell you honestly. I said, I don't really know. I said,
no, I would root for a mid-air collision. Just kidding. But that's the old line between if it was a World Series between the Mets and the Red Sox, which would happen in '86, I was rooting for a mid-air collision.
All right, but who would you root for, Mike?
I wouldn't root. I'm a reporter.
I know.
Who would you pick?
Who would I pick? Well, I mean, those teams are non-existent because, you know what I'm saying? It's like I'd have to see what the Sabres were at that point to make a final, or what the Edmonton. I can't really say.
Like a final this year, you would pick Edmonton.
Yes, because they have McDavid.
Yeah,
of course.
Well, and they're a much better team in general.
Well, yeah, one's a playoff team and one's not.
they've got like 4 or 5 guys that are better than them and anybody on the Sabres.
Yeah. But I'm saying, like, one is going to miss the playoffs by 8 or 9 points, and the other one is going to lose in the first round. So who's better?
Yeah,
I think that's going to lose in the first round.
Yeah.
So we have to chat about what's a playoff team and what's not, and we have to talk about the Flyers because a couple of interesting things last night. First one is, so John Tortorella says preemptively when he gets to the PNC Center, he's not going to talk about Couturier. So then he scratches him, and then he doesn't talk about him after the game. He actually lets Brad Shaw.
Is he going to get sanctioned by the NHL for not talking?
He should, because Brad Shaw interviewed after the game, not him, right?
Right.
So he probably should get fined. But so there's that. That's a side, right? That's the side thing. They lost the game, and of course I see headlines. Well, this was as good as a win because it's Carolina, and it's like, no, this is the crutch of getting the 1 point loser point, because right now the Flyers need every point they can get.
Yeah.
And while it seems today that 1 point's okay, if Washington were to go and win 4 games in a row, just saying, I don't know if they're gonna, but if they were, then all of a sudden you're gonna look back and say, well, we needed that 2 points there, not that 1 point. But my point is they're getting by without Couturier, but they're missing him in big spots in these games. Yeah. And now the coach is just sort of playing it this way because either he doesn't want to talk to him, he doesn't want to deal with it, or he thinks it's right. It's one of those 3. I don't know which one it is, but I can't believe it's good for the team for the rest of the year.
I don't think he's out for the rest of the year. I know,
but I'm just saying. Who knows?
But I mean, surprised. 2 games is a way different statement than 1 game, and I think that was surprising to me, like especially against a team like Carolina, especially in this run, because this run right now, the Flyers have basically 2 seasons left in this regular season. They have the next couple games, which are like against really good teams, where they play like Florida, they play Boston, I think, and they play the Rangers. The next like 3 or 4 games, and this is like right now they're in the middle of this crazy schedule where they played Carolina. Before that, they played Toronto twice. They've been in really good. These are all top teams, but the last 8 games of the season, the Flyers play teams out of the playoffs. So the interesting thing about that is if they can get through this running, that's why people are talking about the point last night of being meaning something by getting through this thing. But that doesn't mean that this Flyers team hasn't necessarily shown a propensity towards beating teams they should.
Yeah, but
I really don't think that really matters. That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
true. But here's the thing. I mean, okay, I wrote this off as the typical John Tortorella button pushing. Like, okay, I'm going to do this to spark the team.
Yeah,
but it's gone longer than I thought it was going to, where it's gotten to the point now where him not talking to the media and not fessing up what's going on is gutless. It really is. I think he should be fined by the league because he's got to talk to the media, and he doesn't have the courage of his convictions. Because if you're going to sit your team captain because of some reason, then come out and explain it. Not say, "Well, I'm not going to talk about Sean today." Okay, well then you know what? I mean, then that's just not acceptable. That's your part of your job is to talk about what is important to this team.
It is, but it's again, you can't make him talk about anything. Like
that's why the league can only fine him. That's it.
They can't really do much about it. Like, I mean, they can fine him for not doing the press conference more than they can fine him for not talking about.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and that's possible that they could do that for sure.
I don't know if they will. I'm just saying I was surprised all of a sudden he didn't show up after the game, and
said
nothing.
Yeah, there's going to be something definitely down the line here about where Briere is going to have to bring the 2 together, like we heard Kevin talking about, but the Capier, and they're going to say, listen, we got to play Sean Couturier, because the reality is they do need to play him. And last night in the overtime, I felt like was where you missed him a lot, because he's so smart in the overtime that could have helped.
Yeah, I mean they played Cam York 29 minutes in that game. 29. Yeah.
I mean the injuries on defense are more important right now than
Couturier. No, but here's another thing. Okay, so by accident, they're now playing Adder and Jennings, who were a pair in Lehigh for a long time until they started messing around with those pairings too. They've been really good.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to mention they've been really good.
Yeah.
Even on the broadcast, they're not really mentioning it.
No.
They're only mentioning Sanheim and York. This is by accident. By accident, they are keeping the Flyers afloat with these young guys, which is the way it should have been. And if you go back and look how it went this year, a lot of times the young guys only got a chance when the other guys that he wanted to play were failing, and he had to put him in.
Well, that's
not really the way you're supposed to do it.
That's a torch story for a long time, though. I mean, but
that's not the way you're supposed to do it for this team.
No, it's not, but you remember New York, Columbus, other places where where that's happened, where others were gotten in the lineup, made an impact where he could ever actually take him out of the lineup again.
Right.
Now he has had a good, he's I think he did well with Connect Me as far as that goes.
Yeah, sure.
He's done Morgan Frost.
Positive influence on some guys, but it's just after this year, whatever happens this year, they make the playoffs, they don't, they get eliminated quick, they don't. If the same thing happens next year, the Flyers have to do something about it from a management standpoint, because then they won't be developing guys fast enough anymore.
I don't think they can. I don't think he survives if he was to scratch Couturier for the rest of the way. I think George would lose. I think he would lose it. I think that is something. I think the Flyers are really that unhappy about it above him. But I don't get. Yeah. For now, they have to. They're all like taking the the stance they have to take.
Well, if the goal of the Flyers is to make the playoffs, which obviously it is right now with 12 games left to go in the regular season, 2 things are in their favor. The 2 wildcard teams are in the Atlantic. So they really can't fall. It's either third place or missing the playoffs right now. That's the way it looks. Washington is the closest one. And Washington, they've got 2 games in hand, but they may lose one of their better forwards for a long period of time because Tom Wilson is probably going to get suspended multiple games. I don't think he did it on purpose. I joked that it was his ode to Chris Simon and doing the Ryan Hulwig incident all over again. But it was clearly careless, and he's been suspended how many times? He's probably going to get 5 or 6 games. That's going to hurt.
That will be devastating for the Capitals now, and because the Capitals have to do everything they can. I mean, the Buzztron 5000 now has moved the Flyers back into 3rd place in the division, but with that 1 point. But the fact is they're 1 point ahead of the Islanders and 1 point ahead of the Capitals, who are both at 94 points. We're projecting both to 93 points, where the Flyers are projecting for 94. Right. And yet, and the Red Wings are still projecting 87. So the reality is that the Red Wings, who have a big lead right now, still have a tough schedule ahead of them. And they have a tough battle ahead of them. They really looked good last night, but can they keep that momentum going? If they can, then they can obviously make it. But and last night win was a very big win, and it actually, you saw how the whole thing can compound, because they were projected at 82 before last night. Now they're at 87 with 1 win. Right. They went 5 points, basically helping their games the rest of the way too. So that was a big win to get. But as this plays out here, the other thing I think that I do want to mention that I think is worth saying that no one's talking about is the Carolina Hurricanes have a according to Buzztron, and really when you look at it in general, have an actual shot at winning the President's Trophy. The Carolina Hurricanes have it just as good as, right now it's super tight on the Buzztron. It's you have 117 would be the Hurricanes, 115 would be the Bruins and Rangers and Avalanche, and 114 is the Panthers.
It's tough. It's tough to win the President's Trophy when you're not even the best team in your own division, which they're not. They're the 2nd place team in that division right now in terms of standings. But in terms of, the only thing that I think that they have the advantage over the Rangers right now is the Rangers have Trouba out, and they have and Lindgren, and we still don't have a straight answer on Lindgren. When they're playing,
they're going to both come back, but they're not rushing them. That's what they say.
Right, they're not going to rush them. Right, exactly.
In goal, Mike. But as far as if you were to go forward by forward and defense by defense, the Hurricane and the Rangers are pretty close. But
I think the Rangers have a distinct advantage in goal.
They do.
Durkin and Quick over Freddie Anderson and Kochetkov.
They do.
Spencer Martin. Yeah,
they do.
I will say this.
Yeah.
Let me say this about the coaching of the Hurricanes that's doing something different with Anderson that I think makes sense. They wanted to kind of dip his toe back into the water, not put him in full time. So now what they're doing is with their 3 goalies, if that goalie's not playing, if it's Anderson or Kochetkov, if they're not playing, they're not playing at all. They're not even possibly getting put in as a backup. I do kind of like that for these mental days off that these guys need down the stretch. I think that's a very good move.
The Leafs are doing the same thing. Martin Jones was the backup for Samsonov in the one game, and then when Wall started on Wednesday against Washington, I'm pretty sure that that Jones was the backup for Wall. So they're completely off the ice when they're not the starter.
Right, and I do like that when it's a rare teams have the ability to do that, but. But the Leafs aren't going anywhere up or down, and the Hurricanes doesn't really matter to them. I don't think if they finish in 1st or 2nd, because
and you can tell the Leafs are going nowhere, Russ, because Marner, if it was the playoffs, he'd be playing. Right. He has a mild high ankle sprain. He hasn't played in over a week, and he's not playing the next 2 games. They're not rushing him back. TJ Brody.
I heard he was seen at Dave and Buster's though, Marner. Doing Papa Shot. Is that true?
No. TJ Brody is not play. Yeah, I know, Russ. TJ Brody is not even in the top 6 right now, so he's banged up. Labushkin is ill. Bertuzzi, they're not rushing any of these guys back. They're playing.
Actually, Brody is now turned into their Corey Cross or your
Aki Berg. No.
Aki Berg.
No. To some people, yes, but the problem is, Russ, he's not a top pairing guy anymore. He can't play on the right on his offside because he's lost the step. He's still pretty good on the left side in a second pair, third pair role, but he's not going to be back at 5
too many of those guys in right now, like you said with Benoit.
That was my whole point at the deadline. How many 5s and 6s can you add? You need 2s, 3s, and 4s.
But you don't want to keep draft picks, so you can't do that. That's the reality.
They didn't need
to add that. They could have Tanev, but they didn't want to do it.
No, not Tanev. How about Dumba? Dumba was
There has to be a reason Maybe Dumba didn't want to play there.
I don't think
it was because they didn't have the cap
it
space.
was stats enough to play with them. Honestly.
It was because they didn't have the cap space.
Then hold on. If that's the case, then you blame Treliving because you could always make a deal with another team to get cap space.
Well, they did, but they did it for the wrong guys. They did it for Edmondson.
So then you have to blame your GM on that.
It's not slagging Treliving. They got Edmondson, who I think is a good guy, or Labushkin, who's a decent. But they needed a top 4 guy and a right-handed
Well,
top.
You're basically telling me that they chose Edmondson over Dumba, and if that's the case, I don't think that's going to end well for him.
They chose Edmondson over Dumba because Edmondson was $875 on the cap, and Dumba was $1.95 million.
Right, but like you said, but that's because of 2 weeks before he had to get that shiny Labushkin that was available to him, and he jumped at that because of an injury.
Right, and with Labushkin, they had to trade him to a third team to cut his salary.
No, right, but if he had waited 2 weeks, he would have had Dumba. So what would you rather have, Dumba and Edmondson, or Dumba and Labushkin, or Edmondson and Labushkin?
Yeah, I would have rather had Dumba because.
Right, but you see, when your GM that's the whole thing about the GMing game. No, hold on. It's when you're proactive or you're reactive. It's a whole different thing, and I think he jumped the gun a little bit on it, Treliving, because he was really worried at that point.
From what I heard. And of course, this is a negative commentary on Arizona. What Arizona required to have Dumba's salary was probably Toronto's first-round pick. And if that was the case, and Treliving told them to go F themselves, which he probably did, at least I would have, but he went for the cheaper option, and he could get Labushkin's salary down to 25%. So, if that's the case,
Arizona didn't end up getting
Arizona played a game of chicken, and then they got stuck at the 11th hour and ended up taking a 5th-round pick
but that's when a GM calls back the second time.
Wait a second.
That's when the GM calls back the second time because he's called other people and said, "What are you hearing that the price is for Dumba?" And they're saying it's no longer a first, and that's when Treliving's supposed to call and say, "I hear the price has dropped."
But he already made his move.
No, that's my point, Mike. That's exactly my point.
Russ, they had to get a defenseman.
Here's where I think they made.
Were they not going to make the playoffs if they didn't get a defenseman at that point?
No, Mike? they needed somebody.
Then he did it too early.
I don't think. Well, okay. I mean, no.
It's really hard to say, right? Because the hindsight's 2020. Okay, so the reality is here that there's 3 things: Labushkin, Dumba, Edmondson have one thing in common, and that's they're all injury prone, right? They've all missed time with injuries, right? So if you're going to go out and get 2 of them versus 1 of them, I think that's a good idea versus like 1 getting hurt and not having anybody. So I think what he looked at was he said, these guys are our depth defensemen that we're pulling in here, and we're going to get 2 of them, which is going to give us a chance that 1 of them will be healthy. And I think that's smart because if they go and they spend way more money for Dumba, they spend the draft pick for Dumba, and he gets hurt, then they're really up the creek. So to me, I think that they did the right move. I think Treliving did a pretty good job. The interesting thing I heard yesterday, Russ, I don't know if you heard this or not, but was that the Max Pacioretty turned down a trade to the Rangers.
He did. I mentioned it on Sirius because I think he probably saw that there was a chance for the Capitals and figured, why am I moving? Like, I want to help these guys do it. That's why I signed here.
Yeah, it is surprising though, because everybody knows he's always talked about winning.
Well, it might also be a little bit of gratitude because they signed him when he was, in the middle of recovery from the Achilles injury, from his second Achilles injury, and they gave him, I think, $2 million a year. So it might, and
they tried to trade him.
Well, their general manager has to explore every option. He traded Edmondson, he traded Mantha, and now surprisingly, they're still in the playoff race with a -31 goal differential.
Right. No, they are.
So
that's insane. But
at the point that they made these trades, they were out of it, and now they've gotten hot since.
Right. Yeah. No, that's very true, and they were just starting to get hot at the trade deadline, actually. So it was it looked kind of iffy at the moment, but they still with it. And
Can we talk about the best race in hockey right now?
Yep.
And that's the 3-way tie in the Central Division.
Yeah.
I mean,
that'd be awesome.
Winnipeg, Colorado, and Dallas, all at 93 points. And my assertion is, and I'll stick with this, I'll say this till I'm blue in the face. The team that's first place in that division, obviously they're going to. I think the team that's first place in that division is going to the Stanley Cup final. The 2-3 matchup in that division is the worst matchup in the playoffs, because whoever loses it is out of the playoffs in the first round. Whoever wins that is losing in the second round because they're going to have the shit beat out of them. I
know, and it also along those lines, the Predators are in that division, and they haven't lost in 16 games. Now they're not going to catch those teams, but the reality is that they're the hottest team in that division. And
what the Predators are doing is truly amazing, actually.
And you know what they remind me of, and this is something that someone brought up the other day, and I really kind of hit it on the head. They really kind of feel like that Blues team, that won the Cup, that was out of it for a very long time, looked really like they just didn't have anything going at all. And then which is where the Predators were, like around Christmas time. If you remember, they were just like, oh my gosh, they were just a mess. And yet now they've done that run. They've made this incredible run, which is like that St. Louis Blues team did. And now they're just, watching them play last night and shut out with their backup goalie, shut out the Panthers in Florida. This seems for real. They are for real. They are for real.
I think they're for real. I think they have turned the corner on that.
I also have to say, though, that recently, because I've been obviously tracking the Florida-Boston race for first place, Florida's played terribly the last couple weeks.
Well, they played teams that they were struggling against, which is what the Buzztron predicted, Mike. That's why you guys.
But they shouldn't lose to Kevin Lankinen.
No, they shouldn't. But
they have not been playing well since after the deadline. I don't know. Maybe there's
games where they were really hot after the deadline for about 3 or 4 games, and then they've gone totally cold. Like they won. They had that great come from behind win against Dallas. That was really just like epic. And then, but since that win against Dallas, they've just been awful. And
it seems like they're trying. They're trying the Toronto Maple Leaf method of winning, which is let's play a good period, and maybe that's enough. And it's like, maybe they're trying to coast and not get hurt going into the playoffs.
That is the danger of a team that is good at comebacks, because they start to realize, well, we can always come back. But they've always been a team that's been they're very good at coming back, But
I'll tell you, I watched a good chunk of the Rangers Bruins game.
Yeah, I was watching some of that too.
And let's just say, again, I think Don Sweeney dropped the ball, and we don't know what the prices were, and maybe the fact that he didn't think that there was anybody worth his first round pick or a high draft pick in terms of bringing in a center. But you can see right now that's a two-player offensive attack. It's Marchand and it's Pasternak. Yeah. I'm not saying Zaka's not good. He is. I'm not saying Coyle's not effective. He is. But there's not enough there.
No, they're not as effective as they were when they were playing behind those other guys.
There's some other scoring. I know what you're saying.
Yeah, right. It's not even. It's not even quality secondary scoring. And the thing is, they seem now intent on making Swayman the number one, and he's been playing most of the time now. Allmark, they're essentially showing Allmark the door. Allmark will not be back next year.
He's been better since the trade deadline.
He always gets upset around the deadline. That goes back to his Buffalo days too. Yeah. Mike can speak to that. He never plays well when his name is out there on the block.
Right, and now he's killing it. And apparently the trade that he turned down was for Vetrano. That's what I heard. That actually Allmark was going to Anaheim for Vetrano.
No wonder he blocked it.
Here's what I would say. I watched that game, right? I was still taken by a few things. Mm-hmm. They definitely could have won that game against the Rangers. There was a time where it was tight. Their defense is still really good. Actually, Shattenkirk is still playing well.
He's played better than they thought he was.
So my feeling is they're just waiting for playoff hockey to come, Mike, and things to slow down. And they do have big guys, and they do have defense, and they do have goaltending. And I think that's enough to keep them as competitive.
Please, Boston and Florida are just salivating at that potential. It's not a race for first place. It's a race for who can finish in second place. They're both salivating at the potential and possibility of playing the Leafs.
That's not true. I mean,
yeah, believe me, it's true.
No, I mean, historically, I think this. I don't know. I know obviously the history's there, but this team's.
I don't know. Actually, historically, I don't know where the Leafs and Bruins stand, but the last 5 years,
Yeah, no, we know.
No, Russ, they've met in the playoffs 4 times since 1970, and Boston's won all 4.
Okay.
70, 2013, 2018, 2019, they won all 4.
Well,
but
take that lost to them in 1970. It's absolutely going to lose to them now.
Right. Bobby Orr, who just turned 76, was in that series.
Okay, does the Buzztron know this? I don't know if the Buzztron even knows this.
Yeah,
the Buzztron knows this. Not the set. It doesn't go back to. I don't count games from the 70s. But no,
the Buzztron doesn't have computer punch cards and dangling
Buzztron does not count the games from the 70s.
No, but this is my point, and I wrote about this last week on the site. Florida is the better team of the two. Them versus Toronto. They're better goaltending. They're tougher. They're better offensively. They're better defensively. I think they're overall a better team, and they have that intangible that I think will make it not an easy series, but Toronto will not win that series in my estimation.
Right.
Boston, Toronto is psychological. I think Boston's better overall team defensively. Their goaltending is slightly better. Toronto's forwards and offense are better, and Boston's defense is better. But their main weapon is psychological. If it gets to a game 7, Toronto's not winning that series because this core group has lost to that team twice.
Yeah, but they lost to that team with
I know. It doesn't matter.
I want to say this too. There should be more outrage from fans for teams that passed on Charlie McAvoy. I mean, I remember before the draft, I said, it seems like you're dropping. I don't know why. And he couldn't explain it either. And we knew how good this guy would be. Now, he's not an offensive dynamo, but he does everything. And when I mean everything, I mean all those little things. Mm-hmm. Skating, holding the puck.
He's so crazy good. I know. I think
he's crazy good.
I think he's their MVP in a lot of ways. And people don't even
be.
I mean, obviously, you got 2 goalies there. You got Pasternak and putting up these numbers. But really, it feels like that McAvoy, when he's not in the lineup, is the one that is the problem that they have. I mean, he is definitely that strong, and I love watching the guy play. It reminds me of Pronger a lot in a lot of ways.
Yeah, he's a smaller version, but he does a lot of the same thing.
The same kind of thing, and can be mean. He does a lot of really good things. That is what you want in a defenseman. I think Toronto has a much better shot at beating Boston than they have beating Florida. In that.
Oh yeah, I agree, but I'm saying that the challenges for Toronto are different on both sides, and I think the challenge is, even though Boston is not as talented as Florida, in their minds it's just as much of a tough climb for them.
Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. That time will definitely tell for that one. I think so looking at let's look at we go into the games tonight. We got some predictions to give out and stuff like that. So I'm going to get to that real quick. But I'm going to talk about some of the Buzztron's latest updates here as I get through this as well. Because
before I do that, I want to tell people I've never seen these jerseys, these Washington Capitals cherry blossom jerseys. Check it out. They're on capitals.com. I guess they're doing an auction. I have never seen these. They're like light blue, powder blue, and around the Capitals logo, there's the cherry blossoms, which you see if you've ever been to DC. It's pretty cool. This is one of the cooler. It's one of the cooler gimmick jerseys I've ever seen.
I have to check that out. So, like I said, last night, 5-6. The Buzztron went 5-6 last night. So, winners to date, 46. Losers to date, 31. 6 winning nights, 3 losing nights, 1 even night. Buzztron percentage is exactly 60% right now. So the projected, like I said, it has Carolina winning the division by 1 point over the Rangers. That's changed, and has the Flyers in 3rd, which I talked about.
That's one of them. There's different type. There's 2 different types.
Okay.
Oh, that's pretty cool. I do agree. I've never seen that either. Yeah. Boston over Florida by 1 point. So these are all really tight. Toronto, of course, in 3rd. It has Tampa Bay making it pretty easily, which I think we all kind of agree on at this point. Tampa's going to make it.
Yeah. They're making it.
But then the battle for the bubble battle is really tough. It has right now it has Washington with 93 making it, the Islanders 92, Detroit 87. So that's where that's sort of the battle in there. And we'll see. Detroit, obviously looks like they would be better than that because they're higher than that in the standings right now. So we'll see. Out west, Colorado winning in that Central Division battle. Colorado winning it. Winnipeg and Dallas second and third in that order. Vancouver winning it. Edmonton by 1 point over Edmonton. Vegas in third, and Nashville and the St. Louis Blues as the right now listed as the wild card. So the Blues and the Kings are tied, but for the wild card spot, but the Blues would win it in regulation wins. So
I think if I had to put it that way, like me personally in my head, I would do it that way too, because I believe more in Binnington than I do anything that LA is throwing in net. And I do like Binnington better than Saros, but right now Nashville's just got it all going. So
I agree with you. I mean, I think that so tonight, 4 games, Carolina winning in regulation over Washington, Pittsburgh winning in overtime over Dallas. Now that's an interesting one. We'll see how that plays out.
That would save their season, even though it's probably over anyhow. But
pretty much over, but that would help them a lot. But they're still not even in it by the buzz trying, even if they won that game tonight. So Colorado over Columbus in regulation, and Arizona over Seattle in regulation, which is a little bit strange, but Arizona has had Seattle's number.
Seattle has just died on the vine.
They really have. And you would think that this is a huge game for Seattle tonight. If they were going to do anything, they're kind of out of it already. But so there's the 4 games for tonight.
I worry about. I wonder if Hackstall is doing the same thing that happened in Philly. He made the playoffs.
Yeah.
And he died off the next year, and the next year he died off. Now, I know there was a year before he made the playoffs in Seattle, but I do wonder after the playoffs, he wasn't able to get back to the playoffs with Philly. I don't know if he's going to get a full season next year to get back to the playoffs. I wonder about that.
It does feel similar, for sure. It really does. And because they have the talent, they should be better than they are. But at this point, the battle for the playoffs is in the West it's still pretty. They're still so. Like I said, St. Louis projected 94 points. LA projected 94 points, but St. Louis would get it in the regulation wins. Minnesota projected 93 points. And
I was watching the other night.
Where's Vegas?
Vegas is 100 points and projected third.
Fleury's playing decent, but he's not at peak Fleury, and I think that's why the Wild won't make it.
Wild have lost a couple games now in the last couple days, in the last week or so, that have really hurt them. But but I think the Blues are the team that people are just forgetting about. I really think the Blues are the team that you have to really look out for, because they are playing pretty well, and the Kings are all over the map. So we'll see what happens with the Kings for sure. But I think that's pretty much all the time we have for today, folks. Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. And enjoy the games this weekend. Lots of fun games this weekend. Check the BuzzTron out for all the predictions Saturday and Sunday. We've got tons of games. So we'll talk to you then.